Hi everybody, my name is Nicole Boyle, and in this presentation I am going to be talking about my community in Sunbury, Pennsylvania. On the right hand side here you can see a map of this city. I screenshot this from my Maps app on my phone. I couldn't find a good map of the city on Google, so I took a screenshot instead. So you can see this is the city right here, and right along the city runs the Susquehanna River. Sunbury is in Northumberland County, which is in central Pennsylvania, and we will talk more about it as we go. A little bit of history about the city. It was officially settled as a community back in 1772. Sunbury is home to Fort Augusta, which played a role in the French and Indian War and the Revolutionary War. Fort Augusta was home to American forces that were part of the Upper Susquehanna Division in the Revolutionary War. A fun fact about the city is that it is home to the first ever building to be wired for electricity, and that is called the Hotel Edison. Down here at the bottom, this is a picture of the Hotel Edison, named after Thomas Edison himself. He wired this, and it was the first ever building to be lit. Right now, it is pretty much just apartments. There used to be a bar and restaurant down on the first floor of the hotel. Unfortunately, during the pandemic, that closed down. Some demographics. Population as of 2021 was 9,661, and the age distributions you can see 5.4% are under 5, 23% are under 18, and 19.5% are over 65. And on the picture, in the picture on the right, is downtown Sunbury back in the 1950s. It was a booming town back then. Lots of businesses downtown, lots of opportunity for employment. Today, not so much, however. There are still some businesses downtown, but it looks nothing like this anymore. Nothing like it was in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Some more demographics. Sunbury is predominantly white. 91.9% of the city is Caucasian. 1.8% are African American. 5.5% are Hispanic and Latino. And 3.4% are two or more races. 53% or 53.5% of the residents in the city are female, and 46.5% are male. The crime rate in the city in 2020, according to city data, was 23, which is about 11 times smaller than the national average. Most common crimes within the city are nonviolent, thefts, burglaries, assaults. According to that website, City Data, the last recorded murder in the city was in 2015. This hasn't been updated into statistical information sites yet, but there was actually just, unfortunately, another murder in May of 2022. And the only reason I know that is because I'm currently a resident here in Sunbury. So I included some photographs of the police department. Just last year, the city moved into a new police department building, and you can see some of the members of the police department are in this picture right here. The guy in the white right here is our police chief. His name is Brad Hare. And then all the way over here on the right, this is the mayor of Sunbury. His name is Josh Brocious. Down on the bottom, the building behind the police cruiser used to be the police department up until last year when they moved. Education in the city, so about 88.9% of residents over 25 have a high school diploma, and then it drops way down. Only 8.7% of residents over 25 have a bachelor's degree. I think this is because people that end up graduating from high school and going on to college end up staying either where they went to college or they move somewhere where there's more opportunity for employment. We'll talk about how Sunbury has limited opportunity for employment a little bit later. Sunbury itself is a part of the Shikellamy School District. There are 3 elementary schools, 1 middle school, and 1 high school within the district. But inside the city limits, there's only 1 elementary school and the high school. And right here on the right is a picture of Shikellamy High School. Income and poverty within the city. The median household income in 2021 was $37,851. Just under 20% of the residents live below the poverty level as of 2021. I included a picture on the right of Haven Ministry. Within the city, we have a homeless shelter, and that is Haven Ministry. They do a lot for the residents in the city. They have a really big food cupboard. If somebody's in need, they can call Haven Ministries and they'll box them a big box of fresh food. And the homeless shelter also serves people from all over, not just the city. Formal institutions in the city, there are not a whole lot of major employers, but there are a few. The biggest, I would think, is probably Wise Markets. Some of you may be familiar with Wise's. It is a grocery store chain that originated right here in the city back in 1912. I included this picture of one of the Wise Markets that we have in the city. There is another bigger store on the other end of town from this photo. And there's also a meat packing plant and an ice cream plant in the city. Wise's has actually expanded into New Jersey, New York, Maryland, Delaware, West Virginia, and I think Virginia, but it originated right here in Sunbury. We also have Fresh Roasted Coffee, which is a coffee production company. We have Sunbury Motor Company, which is a large car company. And we are also home to the Northumberland County Courthouse, which is right up here. And we have all of the county agencies in Sunbury too. We have Northumberland County Mental Health, Intellectual Disabilities, Children and Youth, Domestics, Probation. All of those offices are located in Sunbury. As far as educational institutions go, we are pretty limited. We have Lackawanna College, the Sunbury branch campus, just opened up, I would say, probably about 3 years ago. It offers some associate level programs. So that was good that they moved into Sunbury, provided some more opportunity for some people. Informal institutions. We have 2 community member run groups. One of them is Sunbury Revitalization, and they are an organization that started a few years ago to try to bring the community together. They put on different events throughout the year. They put on the Sunbury River Festival every August, which is like a food and craft festival. The Sunbury River Fest also does the cardboard boat regatta, which is pictured down here at the bottom. People can enter to build a cardboard boat, and they take it out onto the Susquehanna River to see whose boat lasts the longest. Sunbury Revitalization is also responsible for putting up these hometown hero signs throughout the city. Family members can submit an application to have a veteran put up on the street signs in honor of them or in memorial of them. And they do other events throughout the year too. They do a big New Year's Eve party in the city. And like I said, just to try to bring a sense of community back into Sunbury. We also have the Sunbury Arts Council, which is also started by a member of the community. They also do events to try to bring awareness to the importance of the arts. They do a bluegrass music festival every year. They do a Harry Potter themed street fair. They do art classes, just for people to be able to appreciate the arts. My assessment of whether Sunbury is a good community or not based on these different categories. As far as safety goes, Sunbury has a pretty low crime rate. There's not a huge threat for any major natural disasters, although Sunbury is right on the Susquehanna River, so there is always kind of a minor threat or major threat, depending, of flooding. But in the picture at the top here, you can see that we have a flood wall that lines the Susquehanna River, and it has protected the city on numerous occasions. Back in 1972, I believe it was Hurricane Agnes, the water was right here at the top. It was almost over, but it did not go over, thankfully. And the last time that we had a serious flood, I would say probably was 2011. I forget what hurricane came through, but it did reach the wall, but the wall held strong and did not give out, thankfully. Goods and services. Sunbury does have a small variety of stores and shops, pretty much everything needed to sustain life. Grocery stores and housing and all that Sunbury has covered. I would say the rent rate in Sunbury is pretty high compared to the median income of the residents in the city, so that is kind of like a downfall. The relationships in the city, I would say, are good in specific neighborhoods, but overall they could be better. There is one neighborhood in the city called the Hill neighborhood. They do events, they sponsor events, and a lot of the people up there are very friendly. So they're in specific neighborhoods, the relationships are pretty good. But like I said, overall I think they could be a little bit better. The commonality of goals and values in the city. I think there's a big distinction between the political parties in the city, which I think kind of ties back to the commonality of goals and values. Sunbury is predominantly a Republican city, but I think some of the younger people in the city are definitely more liberal leaning, which kind of causes some conflict between some of the younger people and the older people within the city. And I think it kind of ties into the whole person principle, recognize place in the social structure, and the lack of diversity in the city kind of all ties together. Sunbury is predominantly Caucasian. There are not a whole lot of people of color and minority in the city, and I think there's not a whole lot of opportunity for people who are minorities or people of color. There's definitely some people who are blatantly racist in the city, and it kind of reflects back onto the whole person principle and the social structure, and just the lack of diversity. I think Sunbury could do a better job at advocating for people who are minorities or people of color, and they just don't. They never really recognize it or acknowledge it. The predictability, Sunbury's pretty predictable. Day-to-day stuff never really strays from the status quo. I would say Sunbury's biggest downfall is the lack of opportunity. There are not a whole lot of businesses in the city. There's not a lot of educational opportunity in the city, and I think that's why we see the population continuing to decline every year. People are moving out of the city, moving to places where there's more opportunity. I will say, like, Sunbury Revitalization and the Arts Council have really tried to bring more of a sense of community into the city, which is good, but I definitely think the city, the government itself, the local government could do a better job at bringing awareness to some of the things like the lack of acknowledgement of the racism in the city and things like that. But overall, I would say Sunbury is a good community, but there are definitely things that that could be done to make it better.